Hi everyone, Popular Paxton here with a new custom model segment. This video is not just about some new trains that I've made as customs, but also a building that I recently constructed. So this is the building you're looking at that I'm referring to right now. This is supposed to be the standard gauge and narrow gauge sheds in Crovan skate yard that was seen in season 4 of the television series. I'll just show you a picture of it here on my phone. Yeah, that's supposed to be the sheds that I constructed here. Clearly the sheds are not plain white. I might come along and paint it to make it look more accurate one of these days, but for right now I constructed the main building here. And what I did to do that was that I had 2 of these diorama boxes. I bought these from Michael's, the store, and then my mom constructed them, and I was going to try to use them for their designated purpose, which was creating dioramas, but I really had no ideas on what to do. It was kind of an impulsive buy at the time. I didn't know what I could really do with them, and I didn't want to necessarily like take some things and stick them in there, like glue them in, and then they wouldn't be able to be used for other things. So I just had these empty diorama boxes sitting around that I used to hold and carry some stuff in for a little bit. Then I eventually thought, you know what, I could take one of these and turn it into the Crovan skate yard's sheds. So what I did to do that was that I cut off one side of this box, and once it was off, I took off these flaps here on the side and used this main piece here on that my finger is laying on. I took that, and then I had to, I believe, cut it a little bit so that it could fit inside the shed and not be sticking out a bit. I stuck it in there, and I used duct tape to stick it in, help keep it in place. I put it on the ceiling and on the back here to help secure it, and I did the same on the other side. So that's maybe one reason why I may have to paint it so the duct tape isn't as visible. I'll have to paint it on the inside too, like maybe black or gray on the inside so the tape isn't really that noticeable, and then maybe like a brick red or orange on the outside. I don't know yet. I don't know what I'll do, but anyways, there are 3 standard gauge tracks on this side and 2 narrow gauge lines on that side. So yeah, Rebecca, Douglas, and Thomas are chilling here in the sheds. I'm just making sure the back of the sheds are firmly pressed against the end of the tracks, because there are no buffers back here. So yeah, I make sure that the tracks are all evened up by pushing the back of the shed against the tracks, make sure they all press against it. So that's what I did for the sheds here. I hope you like it for the most part. It's probably not 100% complete, like in terms of color, obviously, but like I said, I may come along and paint it one of these days. And now for the rolling stock that I have made custom stuff. So first we have Renee here shunting in some red narrow gauge coaches. Now 3 of these coaches I've already had as customs. I did do some slight modifications to them. I'm just gonna uncouple Renee's and take this first coach here. So what I did to modify the first 3 that I already had was that this top part here on the front, it was originally white all over, like the sides and the top were all white, and so were these parts on the front above the square face. But then I realized, after looking at some pictures of the actual narrow gauge coaches and some other custom models of narrow gauge coaches that some YouTubers had, I realized, you know what, I need to modify this and make it red on the top part here, because then the coaches have a little more of a curved top on their face like they actually do in the TV series. So yeah, I did that for all 3 of my existing red narrow gauge coaches. So I painted the front and backs of the top piece, but kept the rest of it white. And these coaches, I'll just quickly say, they're meant to be like first class narrow gauge coaches because they have a 1 on each door, which means first class. That's what that's supposed to mean. So that was one of the coaches. This was another coach that I already had. So this is a happy coach. This coach is sad or miserable. Oops, bumped the shed there. This coach here in the back was also a or already existing custom of mine for the red narrow gauge coaches. Once again, just painted the front and backs of the top roof piece. And then this coach right here is the newest one that I made because I decided I needed 4 of these, because not just so that there would be enough narrow gauge coaches to go around, but because, you see, I had bought a lot on eBay of 5 unpainted boxcars. So I was going to turn 4 of them into something else. And then I decided to use the last one to make a 4th red narrow gauge coach. So this one kind of has a bit of an annoyed expression. This one I didn't mention has an upset expression. This one is a little annoyed because the mouth is a little like squiggly. And yeah, that's this coach had to be completely custom painted, obviously, because it was an unpainted boxcar. Yeah, I went along and did the same color and details as the other coaches with red paint, white roof, a yellow horizontal stripe along the top, doors and windows, and then these dashes along the middle, and then the 1s on each door to represent, to say that this is a first class coach. So I'll just put these all back on the tracks here. So yeah, once again, this is the newest red custom narrow gauge coach that I made. The other 3 were just modified so that these top pieces would have red on the front and backs to make their faces complete, more curved and arched and not like a square like a troublesome truck would. Now next to Reneus, we have Scarloey shunting some blue custom narrow gauge coaches, some custom blue narrow gauge coaches. So yeah, these were made from the other 4 unpainted boxcars I purchased from eBay. So let's take a look at them one by one. I'll just scoot my camera back a bit and move Scarloey out of the way. So this coach is looking a little concerned. You may kind of notice that the gap between the mouth and the nose there looks like an extra drop of blue got on it rather than it just, well yeah, basically yeah, I did have to put a little dab of blue on there because the mouth and the nose got a little close to each other when I was painting, and I wanted to have a little gap. So I had to put a tiny dab of blue right there to make a little gap between the nose and the mouth. Because of this, if you look close enough, this side of the mouth is a little dipped in on the top. So yeah, that's what happened with that. Also on this eye here, the eyelid, or the, not really the eyebrow, because the coaches don't have eyebrows, but the top of the eyelid was pretty close to the very top, so I had to put some extra white above the black line to make sure that there was like enough of the eye part around the eyebrows or the eyelids, if that makes sense. Anyways, here's the side. I'd say I did pretty good with the color, like particularly with the blue. The only thing I really ought to try to improve on is the thickness, or rather hopefully making the thickness of the lines. Hopefully making them more skinny and thinner. I know that some people like maybe try to use toothpicks, or there's one user I know who uses a needle actually to paint thin lines, but I've not like really done much of that or any of that. Particularly, I've never tried to use a needle to paint thin lines. But I do maybe have some techniques in mind that I could try in the near future. Maybe. But for now, this is how the coaches look, with the lines to represent their doors. And then here's the back, and then this side. Now on to the second one. This coach is feeling sad, just like that one red narrow gauge coach. Not much else to talk about on this one, since they're all gonna pretty much be the same color and design, just with different faces. Now on this third one, this coach is upset too, but unlike the red narrow gauge coach, which is somewhere in like number 3 in line here. But yeah, that coach had like a curved arch, like a crescent face. This coach has like a circle or oval mouth, and I said crescent face actually, I meant mouth. A crescent shaped mouth. This coach has a circle, a round shaped mouth to show that she's annoyed. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and show the rest of this coach around the sides, just so you can see how okay, or how the detail looks. And this final coach here is happy. And yeah, now I have 4 custom blue narrow gauge coaches and 4 custom red narrow gauge coaches, but we're not done yet with this custom model video. For our final custom models, we have Peter Sam shunting in some custom narrow gauge brake fans. Now these bodies of the brake fans are 3D prints that were made by Nick FT89, and they were sold on his eBay store. And yeah, I bought 3 of these from eBay not too long ago, and I started painting them not long after they arrived, and I finally finished like the last one not too long ago, which was the blue one. And then I needed to attach them to the chassis. So on the day that I bought these prints from eBay, I bought a couple other items that had some old tenders that I could use their chassis for. I bought a James that came with a box car too. A used condition James with his tender that came with a box car. And then I bought a lot of 2 that had James's tender and Mike's tender. The old style Mike, that is, not the Fisher Price one from Solo's Legend of the Lost Treasure. So here's the brown narrow gauge brake fan that's typically used on goods, with goods. It's not used for coaches because there are no brown narrow gauge coaches, obviously. So here's the roof, that's all gray. The body is brown, obviously. These little things on the side here are like where the guard is supposed to sell tickets, I'm pretty sure. And then we've got like doors here, right here. And this was put on a James's Tender chassis. Next we have the red one, which can be put behind the red narrow gauge coaches. As you can see there, it can also be used with goods trains too, obviously, because it's a brake van. So yeah, this one is red, looks pretty nice. I think they all look nice, they look pretty good. There's the back. This was put on a Mike's Tender chassis. And finally, the blue one, which was the last one I finished painting. Yeah, it's not the same shade of blue as the blue narrow gauge coaches. This is a little darker, but it still works well with it. I mean, this is more to match the color shade of the brake van in the TV series, and it was put on the other James's Tender chassis. So normally in the past, when I've had something to put on a chassis, I've used foam tape, but that makes the top piece stick up a little higher, and I didn't want to do that with these brake vans, so instead I used some super glue to stick them on the chassis, and that worked out pretty good. And other than that, that's all the custom models I have to show for this video. I hope you liked them. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you guys later.